So I want to once again welcome you all to our Wednesday webinar. My name is Michael Wimberly. I will be presenting the webinar today on Creo efficiency improvements using Mapkeys, shortcuts, and etc. So some of the other functionality that we can go through and use to kind of have to speed up or make it more convenient when we're using our Creo sessions. All right, so the objective of this, of course, is to go through and show the Creo efficiency improvements. Once again, just some of the enhancements to Creo that will allow us to work faster through it. So, of course, with this, the general agenda of it is go through, do a general introduction of myself and Boundary Systems, as well as just a brief overview for this one, very, very brief. And then, of course, go into the actual demonstration and then the Q&A. All right, so once again, my name is Michael Wimberly. I am a senior technical specialist here at Boundary Systems. I've been with Boundary Systems now over 5 years, but I've been working with PTC products for well over 20 years now. I am a certified trainer in Creo and in Windchill classes, as well as a certified implementation specialist for Windchill as well. General information about Boundary Systems. First off, Boundary Systems is headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio. Not far from the airport. We as a company are, of course, we consider ourselves a technology leader. Some of our partners include, of course, PTC. We also Solid Thinking, eTraj, ZWCAD, and some other technology companies that we've also partnered with. For a listing of those companies and what the other softwares that we're dealing with actually do, you can always visit our website at boundarysys.com to actually go through and get more information on those, or you can email me and I can get you the information as well. We've been one of the 16th fastest growing private companies in the greater Cleveland area. Some of our capabilities include product lifecycle management, data management, CAD design and consulting, as well as simulation and product development. What you're looking at on the right side of the screen are just a few of the companies that we work with currently, as well as in the past, and we will continue to grow that listing. This, of course, isn't everyone. This is just a few of those that we've actually worked with, but of course, we've worked with more than just what's seen there. Once again, some of our industry awards is we've had been in the Inc. 5000 as well as the Weatherhead 100, which is basically Northeast Ohio's fastest growing companies. And then once again, some of our major accreditations are we are Windchill Certified Implementer. We also are PTC Preferred Service Provider and PTC Certified Training Partner. All right, and then once again, here's just a listing of a couple of the companies that we're actually that we work with, or the software that we actually deal with. So once again, PTC and some of the other ones as well. We've had webinars on some of those as well as hands-on workshops for some as well. All right, now just general information for myself. If you want to get in touch with me, there's my phone number, 513-415-0747. And then, of course, my email address is mwimberly@boundarysys.com. That's for any technical questions, any sales-related questions. You can always contact our office at 440-274-0291. And then, of course, you can always email sales@boundarysys.com. One other thing that you may notice is that my number is a 513 number. 513, if you're not familiar, is the area code of Cincinnati, Ohio. That is actually where I'm out of. So the company itself is out of Cleveland, but I'm actually out of Cincinnati. So I'm actually in the southern part of Ohio versus the northern part of Ohio. So just FYI. All right, and then from here, we're basically going to go into a demonstration. There's not really much to talk about as far as the overall, because it's not a particular module that we're dealing with. We're just dealing with some of the software's functionality. So we're going to go right into our demonstration. All right, so what we're looking at here is, of course, Creo 4. So when we go into Creo 4, it looks pretty much the same as Creo 3. Now we'll go in and just simply open up a simple part. So simple part, no no geometry inside of it, just something to kind of bring up to give us some menus. Now, one of the first things I want to deal with is the actual layout. So what we're looking at here is our ribbon at the top. So our ribbon has all our different tabs, has the groups within the different tabs that we can go through and work with. One of the things that we can do is, of course, go in and customize this. I discussed this in when I'm talking with some of the people or even some of the classes. We can go in and customize what this ribbon looks like. So what I'll do is I'll right click on it and I'll simply go in and say customize ribbon. What it does, it now takes me into the Creo options dialog box. And then in the customize section, I'm dealing with the actual ribbon itself. Here you see on the right side is the actual layout. So each of the different tabs is represented here. And then underneath each tab, it has the different groups that are also represented. If we wanted to, at any point in time, we could go through and turn off any of those groups that we didn't want to go through and see any of the information for. We can also come over and remove any of the actual commands that are inside of those as well. So we can go in and customize what those actually look like, what's inside of them, what are included in them. Those are our standard ones. What we're also able to do is not only go in and customize what's there, but we can also go in and create our own tab. And I always go in and create a tab. If you're going to create it, I'm going to go in and call this tab mine, because this is basically the stuff I want to look at. And then we have our groups. Now, one of the things that I tell people to do, or if they want to go through and customize this, don't just create a generic tab to go through and add just general information to it. Make it useful. So right now, my Mine tab is the first tab that we'll actually see. So we can move that up or down, and that's just simply using the arrows over here on the right to go and move it up and down, but I do want it to be my first tab. So I'm actually going to go through and we can look at that. So the first group is listed here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and call this group, rename. I'm going to call this my modeling. So what I'm going to use this for is I'm going to take the items that I use most often from the modeling tab and add them to a group in my tab called my modeling. So to go specifically to that, right now it shows in the category section, kind of in the middle-ish left, it shows all commands for a design part. I'm going to come down here and specifically go down to just the model tab. And what's going to show me are all the options that are currently in that model tab. So the ones that I use more often are chamfers. I'm going to come down here and I can use datums. I can also, didn't mean to add that. Did I add that right? Yeah, it did add it right. Sorry. I want to make sure it is going in and adding it underneath. Actually added this group, so I'm going to remove that. It added the group datums. I didn't want the group. I just want to go in and add the individual datum. So we'll do that in just a moment. I also want to go through and add, of course, one of the things we all use often is the extrude. So I'm going to go through and add the extrude. I'm going to go in, and if we do family tables often, we can go in, or we access family tables often. I'm going to make sure that the modeling is actually selected. So I want to make sure that I'm adding it under the model and not nesting it underneath one of the existing commands. And then just continue on. There's a whole. So I'm going to go in and add the whole feature. And as you can see up in my ribbon area, all that information is now being populated up in there. So I can go through and now move these things around as I see fit. What I'm looking at here is I'm looking at family table and extrude, have those large icons. So I'm going to go and select family table, and I can go through and modify that and basically give it the small icon. And I can do the same thing with the extrude and give it the small icon. So now that that group area is a little bit smaller and I don't have anything that's kind of outweighing anything else. Of course, I can always go through and move the commands around. So depending on the order that I want them, I can go through and now move them up and down as I see fit. So now I have my modeling command or my modeling group. I'm going to go back up to the mine. I'm going to go in and do another group. And under this group, I'm going to call this one the analysis group. Or I should say my analysis. The reason I'm saying my is because if I go in and type in just analysis, it's going to tell me that that already exists. So it won't let me duplicate that, and I'll show you why on some of these in a little bit. So I'm just going to cancel that. I didn't mean to cancel it. So I'm going to call this once again my analysis. And now once again, I'll come over here to now specifically the analysis tab, and now I'll go through and find the items that I use on a regular basis in the analysis tab. So, and I'm just picking a few things inside of here that I may go through and use. Length, if I use that explicitly. Mass properties, of course. Where is the last one? Maybe a diameter. So I can go through and add each one of those underneath the analysis tab, and then once again, I'm sorry, in my analysis group, I can go through and add those. Now what it did was it went in and made the my analysis group the first group. Well, what I actually want is I want my analysis group to be the second group. So I'm going to move it back so my modeling is the first group inside of there. All right. So we can just continue on to add additional groups inside of there as we continue to work through and customize this. So once again, I'll go ahead and select OK from this. And now that information is now stored inside of my Creo session. So now when I come over and I want to go in and select something, I can just come up here and tell it extrude. Boom. I don't have to go to any specific tab. Once I go into extrude, or I have a file I want to do measurements on, I can go in and do that immediately as well. So if I did have another file, let's just call it that one. Now if I want to go through and measure a length, I don't have to go to analysis length. I can just come over and select that, and there's my information. And then I have my regular measuring dialog box that comes up, and I can go through and manipulate that as well. All right. All right. There are a couple of questions that popped up, and I would normally answer those at the end, but since these came up now, I'll go ahead and answer those. So it says, does the ribbon have a customized file that can be saved on a server and then copied down to the individual computers by batch? It does go in. You can export these settings. You can export these out. I forgot what the file type is, but we'll look at that in just a moment. And yes, that can be then deployed to other computers. And the other one is, can you center these groups? I hate having my most used stuff off the edge. I haven't tried to center these groups so that these actually show up in here. I don't know if that can be centered or not. So I'm not sure on that one. Haven't tried that. All right. So we'll continue on with the demonstration at this point. And as I said, at the end of the demonstration, there will be an actual Q&A time. So anything that you have, if you do type them in, I'll just answer them at the end of the demonstration from this point forward. That way we can go ahead and finish getting through the demonstration. All right, so as I said, so customizing this ribbon, we can go through and add our tabs there however we want to. So this isn't, of course, the only area that we can go through and customize. So we also have our quick access toolbar at the very top. So same thing, I can just right click on there. There's an option that says customize quick access toolbar. I can select that, brings me into the same dialog box, the Creo options dialog box. And then inside of here, I'm just in the quick access toolbar. So I can access all of these areas just by going into my options area. So with that, one of the first things that we can do is right now our quick access toolbar is above our ribbon. If we wanted that now to show below the ribbon, we would just simply select this checkbox here, and it now moves that toolbar to below the ribbon. And then just like anything else, I can then go in and begin to add any additional options that I want. So once again, we have all the commands, but we can go through and now filter that down where we can go in and do any of the items in the tabs, or I can go directly to the applications menu, which will basically now allow me to go through and do some of the application functionality, such as you see there, checking an item out, closing something. The search, which we have on the right side, we can go through and actually add that over there as well. So I'll go ahead and add the checkout. One of the other options I want to use is, where to go? So if we are using, and these options, once again, if you have wind chill, and then these are the options that are very beneficial when using Windchill, such as a save and upload. So instead of just doing your standard save, you can go there and take the save and actually remove that, and now just use save and upload. So it just not only saves it locally, it also saves it to your server-side workspace. And then you also have the options for erase. So you have the erase current. And then, of course, we have the erase not displayed that we can go through and use. We have the deletes. So if you don't have Windchill and you want to go through and do purging, you can go in and do your delete old versions. Add that over there, which once again purge and remove all versions but your latest version. There's your export. So a lot of different commands that you may want to go through and use. You can go through and customize that. Once again, renaming, revising, checkout. Once again, that's a Windchill functionality. Save and backup. That's a good one to have as well. So we can go through and add those. So as I'm adding those, you can see that it just continues to update my quick access toolbar. So once again, whether I have it here or at the top, doesn't really matter. I can go through and actually add whatever information I want to for my quick access toolbar. All right. So for this, I'll go ahead and select OK. And now that's locked in as well. So now I have the Mine tab and I have an updated quick access toolbar. Now, one of the other things that's also available inside of Creo 4 is now when I go through and I select, if you didn't watch or haven't seen any update videos for Creo 4, when you actually go in and select on an item now, it doesn't select the entire feature. It actually selects the geometry. But when you do select that, it gives you this mini toolbar. And this mini toolbar is actually broken into 3 rows. The top row are editing commands. The middle row is actually like feature creation commands. And then the third row is like visibility commands. So we can go through and actually add to those as necessary. So as you can see, I can go through, as I select that, I can go in and say modify, and it'll give me the dimensions for that particular item. Or when I select it, I can go through and do an edit definition on it, or my edit references, suppression, patterning, whatever it is I want to go through and add. Or on that surface, if I want to go through and extrude, just simply select extrude. Now it takes me into Sketcher. Now I may more than likely have to go through and change some of my references, just depending on what it's selecting, but that's over here where we can go through and change, I'm sorry, not references, the setup. So we can make sure that what we're actually using is what we want. So we can go through and use those. But just like everything else inside of our Creo session, this is customizable as well. So I can right click on there, customize, and now it'll allow me to go through and add additional commands here. Same general layout. I can go through and select the actual commands that I want to go through and pull from. So whatever it is I want to go through and use, I can go through and add. I've added delete already to this. I can go through and add. Now for this one, instead of just selecting it and using the arrow, I'm actually going to go through and select on it. And for this, because it's appearance related, I'm going to go through and I can either add it here, or if I want to be more specific and add a row just for my datum features display, then I can go through and do that. So there's my axes display. I can come down here to my datum display. Datum plane display. I think, where'd it go? Oh no, sorry, it's not datum, it's plane. There it is. So plane display. So I can go through and begin to add information to there. If I want to add additional features or remove any features that I may not use on a regular basis, maybe I don't use, revolve. So I can go in and drag that out of there because I don't use that a lot. So I can go through and actually remove and add as necessary. So once I'm finished with that, select OK. And now when I select, I have that additional option. So now I don't want to see my datum planes. I can do it right there inside the pop-up menu. That's even quicker than going up here to the graphics toolbar, which is also somewhat customizable. So I can go in and right click on that. One of the things that I always do with it, because by default the size of that quick access tool, the graphics toolbar is pretty small. So makes it small. What I normally do with mine is I'll go through and increase the size. Yes, it may take a little bit more space on the screen, but at least I can see it a little bit better. And then the commands in there are somewhat customizable. So this is limited as far as what you can add. So some of the things that you can add are the option for view normal. So view normal is simply allowing you to pick a surface, and that surface now becomes normal to the screen. So instead of having to pick basically a reference that's parallel to the screen and then a perpendicular reference to that, I don't have to go in and do that. I can just say view normal, and then once again I'm pick that surface, and where did that, right there, deselect it, view normal, and it makes that surface normal to the screen, or that surface normal to the screen. So I can add that command here as well. I can also add my datum features individually if I wanted them instead of nested inside of the datum filters display. So once again, adding and removing as necessary. I can also move it. So right now it's in the screen, but if I don't necessarily want it in the screen, as far as in my graphics window, I can also go through and simply turn it off, or I can go in and tell it to show it in the status bar. So it actually shows it down here at the bottom of the screen in the status bar, so it doesn't take up any actual real estate in my graphics area. But once again, that is your preference on how you want to go through and manipulate that. So that's customizable as well. And then, yes, we do have the right mouse click, the selection mini toolbar, but we still have our right mouse click option as well. So inside of here, we can add additional commands as well. So I can select on it, and now I can go through and customize. Now, when I'm doing this, you see that both of these are still available. So my mini toolbar is available, and my right click shortcut menu is also available. So as necessary, I can go through and add whatever options I want to inside of here. So I'm just going to go through and just add some things just so we can see them. Now for these, you can see they are broken down into different groupings. So we can see that there's a selection option to actually go through, and instead of selecting a surface, select the entire geometry. You have the copy option, creation, so insert an item at a particular location, insert a note. You still have the delete commands, representations, so on and so forth. So we can continue to go through and add as necessary from here. And I'm just going to go through, as I said, let's go ahead and come down to annotate, and I'm just going to add, like I said, I'm just adding something over. No, not that one. Not annotate. I actually want to go to the modeling tab, and we'll just go in and add inside of there. So depends on where I want to add it. I can go through and add it underneath or inside of any of the other commands, or next to any of the commands. So once again, have that option. And then in both of these options, when I was customizing both, they both have the option of opening options. So what that does is now open up the dialog box like we normally see it. So we can go in and do that. Now, one of the things that we may be able to do, so I'll go to my quick access toolbar. So I'm right here. So if I need to get to this area often, I'll go back down to my applications menu. And one of the things that I can add, because I do go in and customize things, or I may want to go through and customize things, I can come over here and simply add options as a value inside of my quick access toolbar. So if I ever need to get to that, I can do that pretty simply as well. So there's, once again, your customization. So I can go through and use the shortcuts. So customizing my ribbon, I can go in, excuse me, I can go in and customize my graphics toolbar. I can go in and customize the mini toolbar that now comes up in Creo 4. I can also still customize a pop-up menu that comes up in Creo 4. One of the other options that we can use, and that's actually in the title that I'm sure people are curious about, is of course our map keys. So one thing that we have to be aware of is that inside of Creo, and I'm going to go right to the options. So instead of going file options, I just have it in my quick access toolbar. One of the things that's also available inside of Creo is keyboard shortcuts. So it already has some incorporated. So we know some of the basic ones. Control D is of course going to our default view. Control A is activating. We also have, you can see here to bring up the appearance gallery. There's one Control Shift and A. So that'll bring up the appearance gallery. So Control W is closing the window. Control C, of course, copy. F1 is our help. So some of these we already know. Control X is our cut. Delete key, of course, is the delete. So there are some things inside of here. But let's just say we did want to go through and use some additional ones, or we want to go through and add some additional ones. So I'm going to come down here to extrude. Yep. So extrude. Now this is actually, and I'll show you this in just a moment where that's actually coming from. So I won't actually use that one. I'm going to use family table. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to type in, and I'm just going to type in a letter. Now, when I select F, if it's not used, it will allow me to go through and use that. If I go in and select a letter that is already used, such as the one right above it, it tells me that it's already used inside of a shortcut. So it's basically saying either I can leave that one alone or I can reassign that letter to now what I want it to be. So I can override. But that's the good thing, is that it won't allow me to go through and use that. So no, I don't want to go in and override that. So the thing that we're looking at, and when we've developed map keys in the past, or those that have developed map keys in the past, we know that our normal rule of thumb is don't create a map key with a single letter. Because as soon as I create a map key that has X, then if I tried to create one that was XY, the Y would never happen, because as soon as I select X, it now executes the X map key. So what it's actually doing, so I'll go ahead and get out of this, is what it's actually doing, and I'll go back to my model tab just to see it. If I select on the Alt key, the Alt key now brings up lettering. So with those letters, these are basically built-in map keys as well. So as soon as I hit the Alt key and I hit the M, so yes, I'm going to go in and select something in the modeling tab. In the modeling tab, now I see additional letters that I can go through and use. And now we can see that for the extrude, the X key is now selected. So how do I go through and use that? So I will go through and I can select the Alt X, I'm sorry, go back. MX. So Alt MX will take me right into the extrude tool that will now allow me to go through and create an extrude. So there are built-in shortcuts into the software already for your map key. So there are quite a few. Once again, if you select the Alt key, it immediately allows you to go through and select which tab you want to go through and use. So I can go now to my analysis tab, and I want to go do a measuring. So I'm going to go and select ME, and then under ME, I'm going to go in and select L. Now it's going to give me the length. Now, I'm stepping through those as they're popping up, but we know, just as we use map keys and any other shortcuts, after we start using them multiple times, that becomes a lot easier and a lot quicker to go in and do. So as I said, there's quite a bit already built into the software. Just by simply going and selecting the Alt key, there's shortcuts already there. So they work just like our map keys do inside of Creo. And as you can see also with my quick access toolbar, it went in and numbered these as well. So if I want to go in and create a new file, I can go Alt 1, and there it is. Now it's allowing me to go in and create a new file. So once again, after I get used to these, then this becomes a lot quicker as well to go through and use even some of the built-in functionality. But if we do want to go in and create map keys, we do still have that ability to do so. Now, map keys is not a shortcut that is in the ribbon anymore. So if we want to go through and actually access the map key functionality, we will need to use the search tool to do so. So I'm going to go in and select the map keys. Now, once I do that, of course, it brings up our old faithful map key dialog box that will now allow me to go through and create a map key. So I'm going to go in and create a map key. And why would I create this map key? Maybe I'm going to go through and use this. I'm going to go back to my first model, which basically has nothing on it. And I'm going to go in and turn back on my datum planes. So this one, I'm going to go in and create a new one. And this extrude, where'd it go? There it is. I'm going to call this extrude top. So I'm going to say ET. And the name of this is going to be extrude top. Now, what does that mean? That means I'm going to extrude from the top datum. So now at this point, just like normal, we would go in and select record. And then I would simply come up. And for this one, I'm going to go right to the modeling tab, go to extrude, and then I'm going to placement tab, define, and I'm going to use now I'm going to actually pick it out the model tree. So I'm going to select top, and I'm going to make sure that the right datum plane is the right datum plane facing the right of the screen. So what I'm doing is just simply reiterating what those should be. And I'm going to go ahead and select sketch. And now I'm going to stop my map key. And then say OK. And behind there is hiding my map key dialog. And now we have that map key. So now I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this. And I'm going to cancel that. And I'm going to run that map key to make sure it does what it's supposed to do. And there it is. Takes me right into Sketcher, sketching off of the top datum plane. Okay, so that one works fine. So I'm going to cancel that and get out of that. And I'm going to go in and create a new one. And this one is going to be called EF, which once again is going to be extrude front. So, and we understand that one. So I'm going to go ahead and select record. And I'm going to go through the same steps. Modeling tab, extrude, placement, define, and I'm going to go in and select the front datum plane as my sketching plane. And once again, reiterate that the right datum plane needs to face the right of the screen. Sketch, stop, OK. And now there are my two options. And once again, just to confirm that it does work the way it's supposed to work, or the way that we've designed it to work, I'm going to go ahead and select the ET, tell it to run. That's the top. Great. And I'm going to go in and select the EF, run, and now we're sketching on the front. Great. So now I've just simply created a quick little shortcut key that will allow me to go through and basically start sketching on either the top datum plane or the front datum plane. So, and you can go in, of course, any deeper into that if you want to, but those I'll just kind of leave it as is. So great. So those map keys are there. We can go through and use those. Now, to access those, of course, we can go in and simply use our keyboard. So I can still go ET, and there we are. Great. But also, it would be nice if I knew what my map keys were. So I'm now going to come back over here and customize my ribbon again. I'm going to come back over here to the Mine tab. I'm going to go in and now create another group. And I'm going to call this group Map Keys. Sorry, rename it before I start typing. And then, of course, I'm going to go through and move that one down. So it's actually at the end. Now, to go in and access my map keys, simply select over here in the drop down where it says the all commands and go to map keys. And I'm going to simply go in and add both of those items to the map keys. Now, the other thing that I can do is instead of having to search for map keys all the time, I'm going to come over here and there's two options. So there's all commands and there's more commands. The more commands options are the options that don't appear in your ribbon. that used to actually be called not in ribbon. I think that's what it's called in previous versions. So I can go in and select on that and then come down here and find Mapkeys and simply add that underneath the Mapkeys group. So anytime I do want to create a map key, I don't have to find it. I know where it is. It's right here inside of my Mapkeys group. Once again, select OK. Oh, even before I do that, the question was about the ribbon information. All this can then simply be exported, or you have the complete export of the configuration, so that that entire configuration can now be exported as well. And then once again, that can be read into other systems, so everybody has a consistent system. All right, so at that point, once again, I'll say OK, and there we have it. So now I can go through and manipulate the Mine tab to go in and do the things that I do on a normal basis. And then, of course, if I need to go into other items, I can go into here. So if there's something that I started using more often, then I can just come back over here, customize this again, and I'll go through and add that additional item to my tab. So let's go ahead and exit out and exit out of there, the whole thing. Start up Creo 4 again. Everything's good, and you can see that it basically kept everything that I had. Now, what you did not see me do is you didn't see me save. You also didn't see it ask me if I wanted to go through and save it like it did in the past. It does actually go through and save these things. So although I don't necessarily tell it to save it, it does actually save my updates with my system. So when I come over here and I do my open, or I can come over and do open, and then just simply go in and select on the file again. There it is. And as you can see, the Mine tab is the first tab, and then all the subsequent tabs after that. Now, the other thing that we have to keep in mind is that right now, everything that I've been doing has been in part mode. If I come over and I go in and I start a new file and I create an assembly, the Mine tab is not there. The quick access toolbar information is there, but the Mine tab is not there. What that does is for each mode of Creo that you work in, part mode, assembly mode, and drawing mode, you can have a different display setting. So I can go through and now add another tab here that is explicitly for my assembly functions. And go into drawing, do the same thing, do one that is explicitly for my drawing function. That one is probably a really good one to do as well, because we jump between different areas inside drawings all the time, between creating your annotations, the table tabs, things like that, where you can go in and kind of combine those things into a single tab to go in and access that information instead of jumping between the different ones. But inside of here, when you're dealing with the actual ribbon itself, the main ribbon, that interface, it actually goes through and it is mode specific, which once again, I'll create a specific mode, or sorry, ribbon interface here for assembly mode that will be different from part mode. I don't lose it in part mode, so even if no matter what parts I pull up, that information will be there. And the same thing here, when I create one for the assembly mode, then it will be specifically or explicitly for the assembly as well. So I can go through and do that. And then once again, the graphics toolbar is universal. The actual the quick access toolbar is universal. And then still some of the options inside of here, this is customizable as well, that we can go through and use, because you can notice that my delete is not here. So we can go through and use that as well. So those are the main things. So also keep in mind, once again, when we're going through just a quick review of everything, you can go through and customize your entire ribbon interface. Once again, adding, removing as necessary, turning off the different groups that you don't use, or removing commands that you don't necessarily use. You can also go through and customize a quick access toolbar. You can also go through and customize your graphics toolbar. Actually, the location of it, whether or not it's even displayed. Also remember that inside of Creo 4, we can also go through and use full screen. And that's why this mini toolbar has been created inside of Creo 4, because now we don't have to go in and see the ribbon. We can go in and customize this to see the things that we use most often in this. But if we need the ribbon, it's just simply going up to the top of the screen and it'll actually bring it down. Same thing with anything else such as our model tree. So our model tree also is the same way. Which also brings me to one other thing with the model tree, is that with the model tree, it's customizable. We've customized those before. Sorry. Tree columns, I'll add feature number and ID. So we've added those things before, but once again, we don't always need to see those. So we also have the ability to toggling those things on and off. So we can basically display them when we want to, remove them when we don't need to. We don't need to see them. So that's also good if we're going in and adding parameters and things like that. And then one of the other things that we can do, once again, going to my options shortcut, you always have your system appearances. You have the different default themes that you can go through and use. So it actually goes through and makes the background and the actual labeling and everything dark. But then, of course, we can go through and manipulate those as necessary. So, and then, of course, customizing them will allow us to go through and change individually the items that we want to change. So we can still go in and manipulate our background as we want to. And those things also will be saved. All right. So once again, the interface, you can still do map keys. So map keys are still available also, but also keep in mind that the Alt key are a bunch of shortcuts. So there's a lot of things right there in the Alt key that will basically give you that same functionality that map keys use. Once again, once you know the path of the actual item or the command that you want to use, you can do that. So for example, even in the graphics toolbar, you can see that each one of those starts with a Z. So we can go through and use those things as well. So as you are creating map keys, or you are going in and manipulating your keyboard shortcuts, as you go through and add those, keep in mind that it won't let you use something that's already there. So even in our map keys, if I put in letters that are already used by something else, it will flag me and tell me, just like it did when I did it inside this dialog box, that that command or that keystroke already belongs here. Do you want to override that? So, all right. So at that point, or at this point, I should say, I will conclude the demo. And at this point, that's all. And any questions? And I do see that there is a question. So if you do have any questions, inside of your GoToWebinar interface on the right side, there's actually an area where you can go through and actually ask any questions. So if you do have them, please ask them. The question is, can multiple UI files be used? Example, system level UI copy to all users with specific corporate standards, member groups, and then the user's personal UI. I don't know if a UI works like a config file. I think it's just a single one. I think the way a UI works, the actual UI file works, is that with the last one that it reads, that's the settings. It's not a combination of the settings like a config.pro is, where you have a system level or upper level config file and you add specific things lower. Does that go in and now update that? If it's using a UI file, then it's going to use whatever settings those are. But if they do read that top level or that upper level UI file and then make their configuration changes, then it's basically doing that. It's still reading one UI, but it's based off of the original one or the system level one, and they made local changes. So when they're reading it in, it's kind of bringing those two together, but it's still reading a single UI file, but you kind of get that same effect. So yes, if you do set it up at the top level, let it read down and then let them do their individual customizations. And then that will allow those customizations to now be propagated into their local changes as well. So I think that's the best method as far as being able to do that. Any additional questions? Oh, yes. Yeah, that is correct. That at that point, it is disconnected from the system level. And yeah, if you do make changes to the system level, those things are not propagated all the way down. Yes. All right. So a few things I want to make you aware of as far as what's coming up for Boundary Systems. So we do have a couple of hands-on workshops that we're still doing. So we have 2 more left in the year. We have one in Pittsburgh on October 19th. And then we also have one in Youngstown, Ohio, November 2nd. So those are coming up. You can see those here. You can also see them on our website. Speaking of our website, when you go to our website, you can see once again our upcoming events. So there's a hands-on workshop. We can go through and see. There's a Creo 4. So the last one for Youngstown is not listed currently. We will get that updated. But you can see the one here for Pittsburgh is still listed. Also, what you will see is for our training as well. So we have several training classes coming up. One of the ones that we do want to emphasize is that we actually have an administration for Creo 3 and 4 class coming up as well. So for some of the things that we may want to go in and set up for our actual systems, as far as propagating that stuff across the board, how to set up Creo and how to go in and make sure that everybody's reading things properly, that administration class will actually be a good class. That class is coming up in January. So you have a little bit of time to go in and get that that PO approved so you can go in and take this class. But once again, we have additional classes coming up. So you can see this is actually in Cleveland. We have classes also going in Chicago and Charlotte, Orlando. Here in Cincinnati, we have a couple. The next class that we have here is currently our advanced modeling and advanced assembly is coming up in December. But once again, we can also schedule a class. We can come on site and do classes if you have enough people to go in and do that. So instead of you coming to us, we can come to you. If you have enough to do a class, a full class yourself at any of our locations, we can do that too. So you have the ability to go through and do any of that as well. So once again, at this point, everything is complete. So you can once again reach me at my information. Once again, phone number 513-415-0747 or mwimberly@boundarysys.com. You can reach sales at 440-274-0291 or sales@boundarysys.com. You can also go in and we have a technical ticketing system, so technical support ticketing system. You can go through and reach us through that as well. We do recommend that you use the actual website to do so, which is the HTTP support@boundarysys.com. I'm sorry, support.boundarysys.com. You go there, we'll take you to our ticketing system, and then you can go and open up a ticket with the technical support question that you have, or you can go through and email us at support@boundarysys.com. But once again, we recommend that you use the actual support.boundarysys.com, the website itself, to go and open a ticket, because that once again goes to more people, and then we can definitely get to you a lot quicker that way. All right. So if there's nothing else, I want to thank you all for your time and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And we look forward to seeing you in our next webinar, which will be next week. Thank you.